Okay, so up first, I've picked up a book that I have read. That'd be Star Wars: The Cloak of Deception.
Oh, okay.
So that this would be an interesting cover to talk about. Hopefully, you could see it better this time since I've upgraded my camera. But I'm just going to say about the cover artist is once again, I believe he did the 2 book covers that I chose last time. This is unintentional, but Stephen D. Anderson did the cover.
Okay. How shocking.
I know. So you got floating heads and some characters there, and you got
he should do memes.
Should do meme. Yeah, maybe he does.
He is going in disguise.
Jacob, definitely a Photoshop cover with Cloak of Deception. I agree. Now, in my opinion, if I had not read this book, I would definitely say it's politics. This is when the Jedi interfere with politics for the first time. And it's got old Chancellor Valorum on the cover, which is awesome because we don't really get much of him in the movie. Just how many seconds do you think we get him in episode 1?
Not much. And overall, I thought he would be an interesting character to explore in episode 1, besides that book in a short comic book series. Correct, Jeremy? I think that's it for Valorum.
Yeah.
In the expanded universe.
It's him. It's Jedi Council Acts of War that he's involved in.
That's a 4-issue series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dave Filoni decided to throw him in the Clone Wars, even though that contradicted. That's the only other thing I can think of.
I forgot about that.
I didn't. It's another.
I totally forgot about that. I wrote that out. You need to read Jedi Acts of War. Is that what? Yeah.
Jedi Council Acts of War.
Council Acts of War. It's pretty good.
I shared the art for those of you who weren't here last week. I shared that, like the cover of that, as one of mine.
Okay.
What?
Ugly. It's just that early 2000s art that was just not
plain, boring,
cartoony.
I was gonna say cartoony, but plain and boring. Not like anime cartoony. Just kind of like lazy 80s.
Not even 80s, like 90s.
You're right.
Yeah, it's just,
and that was the style. If you remember, Gen 13 Ordinary Heroes did the same type of.
We don't all know how I feel about Gen 13.
Huh. Well, I actually enjoyed this book, but judging by the cover, I thought this would be a horrible book, boring, political. My opinion when I read it, and I thought it was a great build-up to episode 1. I enjoyed it.
No, I mean it's easily James Luceno's worst novel. But it's not bad. It's not good either, I don't think. But you liked it?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty fun read. Like Commander Cole was a pretty cool character.
I'll be honest, that's the one I remember the least about all of his writings.
Oh, wow.
You haven't read his new canon stuff. It's a significantly better book than his new canon stuff. I think it's fine. I thought it was a fine book. That being said, I read it and Darth Plagueis near the same time, which I think is a great double feature read because you get the highlight reel of Cloak of Deception and Darth Plagueis.
You get the highlight reel of a lot of things in Darth Plagueis.
Yeah, and you get the setup for a bunch of other things.
So yeah, Quality Autism says another Steven Anderson Photoshop cover. I mean, I think this is better than his. Well, maybe. Better than previous covers we did.
Out of all of those types of covers, it's one of my favorites. That's not saying much. I just think Photoshop's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And it's a new idea at the time to make covers like that because that and Darth Maul's Shadowhunter came out around the same time. Those were like new looking covers. Yeah. That being said, we had just come out of the Bantam era, and Bantam covers are just wonderful.
Yeah, those are pretty good.
My mom was just talking about how she loved the Bantam covers the other day when we were having a conversation about that.
Real like actual.
I totally want your mom to do a video with you about those Bantam covers.
I want her to do like a podcast, but she refuses. She will not come on camera because she's like one of the reasons I got into the EU. You know,
that would be interesting.
Yeah. Would you guys have read this book based on the cover?
No.
Yeah, it's very bland.
I would have because I'm interested in Qui-Gon and Council of Valorum. So the characters on the cover would have gotten me to read it. I'll be honest.
I mean, if looking back now, that was one of the first EU hardcovers I was given. So maybe I would have read it because it would have been in my collection, and I would have just picked it up one day. But it wouldn't have been the first one I come to.
I'll be honest. If the author would have said Jude Watson, I would have been very excited, no matter what the cover would look like.
Yeah, because those Jude Watson covers are very peculiar now.
They are. Obi-Wan looks a little weird, but at the same time, who cares? It's what's inside.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the funny thing is, out of her 3 young adult novels, like series, Last of the Jedi, in my opinion, had the most consistent good covers, and it's the weakest of the 3.
Jeremy, you have a book that you would like to show?
Oh, yeah. I got this one right here.
I'm gonna throw you up on the screen.
All right. So the guessing game begins. Who are the 4 people on this cover? And I get to actually explain what this originally was, because this was not a cover for a comic. It was a promotional. Thank you. That was a real good time. Real good one. But who's on here?
Looks like Vader. That's all I can see.
Okay, blow it up again. I won't make faces this time.
Oh, you can make faces if you want.
It is. Oh, okay. If I didn't know,
answer, or
if I didn't know, because I do know.
Yeah. Do you want the correct answer, or do you want like?
Let's pretend I did not know. I would say, Cade, Luke, and Leia.
I mean, you're almost correct.
I think the middle one does kind of have a Luke appearance.
Yeah, middle one's definitely Luke. Obviously, the back one's Vader. And I mean, if you don't know anything about the EU, you're not going to get the other 2 on the left and right. I know who they are, but
well, the thing is it's such a weird cover to make for the Old Republic, which is collecting Knights of the Old Republic, because Zane is the most unrecognizable, and he's the character from the series.
Yeah.
So this was for those of you who don't know, this was Dark Horse's big event. It was a cross through with the 4 Star Wars comic series at the time. It was called Vector. So it started in Knights of the Old Republic. Then it went to Dark Times. Then it went to Rebellion, which was originally Empire, but it got renumbered and called Rebellion. And then it ended in Legacy. So yeah, it's if you could blow me up one more time.
Sorry.
So it started with Zane in Knights of the Old Republic. Then it went to Darth Vader in Dark Times. Then Luke in Rebellion, and it lastly went to Cade in Legacy. And I have a big complaint about this cover because Cade's lightsaber's green at this point in the series. I don't know how.
Borgia.
All right. Bathroom. Weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
But quality autism got it.
I mean, you would not know Zane at all. You could guess Cade. Luke, but that looks nothing like Luke. The thing is, because he has a blue lightsaber, I think people would guess Luke. But it looks like the Hello Kitty version of Luke.
I would say, you know what it looks like? If any of you read the Tales comics, it looks like that one issue of Tales where you had the Ben Skywalker story. It looks like Ben from that. But that's really like, if you read this issue of Tales and read Ben Skywalker's only comic book appearance.
I didn't even know Ben Skywalker was in Tales.
Yeah, he has one story in issue 19.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the most expensive issue of Tales because it is the only appearance of Ben Skywalker.
On his own, yeah, as in the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And bravo to them for making that one.
Yeah, that was at that end when Tales started getting decent.
Well, they had a decent story here and there. You know, Nathan Butler did his Kyle Katarn, which I thought was really good, and they had some people who cared and were reading the new books.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. But I mean, the Ben Skywalker short story isn't the best, but you like it because Ben's in it.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is fair to say. since I don't remember what happened in the story.
It's not much. It's not
No.
much. But you're just more excited to see a Ben Skywalker story.
I wish there had been more, but
Boom, quality got it. Looks like Luke from the holiday special.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's that's a better answer than I gave. That's great. Yeah, I agree.
I would agree as well. This was also, can we talk about Vector here and how terrible Vector is?
Shut your
It
face.
had good bookends.
It had good bookends, but that middle part is a waste of time. I would have liked, honestly, if we didn't have, because for one thing, Rebellion was falling apart as a comic book series, and it ends on an event. That is like sinful in my book, and that's like a Marvel DC thing that they do all the time.
Not its fault, because this crossover was planned before they decided to end Rebellion, though.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, but the Dark Time.
I mean, I agree with you. It's a bad way to end the comic book series, but it was planned before they decided to cancel Rebellion, because no one would have wanted it to end on Vector. That's for sure. But it just wasn't selling well. But you know what? I didn't know how a crossover would work. I thought they did the best with what they could do.
Yeah.
And is it the best story in the world? No, you're right. It drags a little bit too. But they wanted to do a crossover, and you've never seen that with Star Wars before, especially Star Wars from different eras. It's like, because remember when they talked about Vector, about what it was going to be like? I was like, I think that was in the Insider, like right before, right when it started. And they said, we're going to start in the Old Republic and end in Legacy. I was like, how? How are you going to do that? And I just couldn't grasp how they were going to do it. And I didn't read it till it was all done.
Yeah.
The entire crossover series.
Yeah, I did the same thing because.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, that was right when where I bought comics went out of business, so I just stopped getting single issues, and I had to start collecting in trades and waiting like everyone else for things. So I think I got Vector for Christmas and read it in both volumes and read it in one sitting, which was really annoying back in the day because rather than like have 4 volumes, one for each like story arc, they combined them into 2 Vector volumes, but they like skipped a number for each series if you got the trade paperback. So like KOTOR went from volume 4 to volume 6 if you had them all on your shelf. And like Legacy went from volume 5 to 7. It was really just for like organization's sake, really obnoxious back in the day. And I think that's part of why I judged it so terribly when I first read it. Because as it stands now, I think that like the bookends are really good, but the middle is just like, we gotta tie it in because it's an event sort of thing. It's like how in Marvel, they'll just add superheroes into events just because they're there and because they can sell. In any Marvel event that doesn't have the X-Men in it, and they have to have an X-Men tie-in to say, oh, this is what the X-Men are doing. It has nothing to do with the Marvel event. I don't know.
So, for somebody who's never read any of the Expanded Universe comics, would you recommend that they do pick up the Star Wars comics in the Expanded Universe? And which one would you recommend that they read first?
Whatever you can get your hands on.
Yes. Whatever goes on sale on Comixology is your best bet. Anything with John Ostrander's name on it?
John Ostrander's good. Hayden Blackman's good.
Hayden Blackman's 50-50. I don't want to have this fight with you again. Hayden Blackman's written some trash. He's written some incredible stuff, but he's also written some trash. That's why I'm throwing 50-50.
John Jackson Miller, as long as it's not Knight Errant.
Exactly. Actually, Knight Errant's hard to get. Like, you have to buy the single issues on Comixology is your best bet. With the Old Republic Epic Collection, something you should know if you're buying these in print, Volume 1 is very out of print, and you're going to pay about $100 to get it in print.
Oh, wow.
Physical copy. I talked someone into selling me 4 Marvel Epic Collections, and it was one of them for about $80, which is about cover price for each one.
How much is Legacy going for right now?
Legacy is still like low because they're printing it right now. That's one of the ones they're currently.
Yeah, I would almost venture to guess that you would start. That would be a good place to start because I mean it's Ostrander. It's far enough detached away from everything that like not knowing about stuff in the rest of the EU isn't really going to hinder you.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you can get your hands on it, Tales of the Jedi is also a really
Yeah.
good starting point.
If you want to spend $50 per Omnibuy,
So
No,
all
it's
yeah.
more like $200 per Omnibuy
it's
now.
$200 now. It was like 53 years ago.
For the Dark Horse ones, yeah, they're really expensive now. But you can buy the digital issues on Comixology for about $1.99 a piece, and I would recommend doing that with any of them. Okay, I'm so glad that Matt is a 5-year-old.
Hey, so was that Big League Chew that you were stuffing in your mouth earlier? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so would you buy that comic book based on its cover? My answer would be no.
No, it's too trying to figure out what it is. It's like
I agree.
I would probably pass by as well.
Yeah.
Just
Dylan, what do you have next?
I was saying it's kind of sometimes it's hard to sell Vader to me. Sometimes like in comics because I guess it might be just more towards like the new canon stuff. There's so many new Vader comics out of nowhere, and the character really isn't consistent with who he is.
there are too many of them, especially at the end.
Yeah.
It was
It's like I get to that point where I'm just like giving up on Vader. Dylan, you got something?
Yeah, I have an interesting one. Because I wasn't really expecting it to come out like this. But it's a real eye-catching cover. So for the copy of Witchfire, I think like they really did an interesting thing with it, and like because it's like a medieval fantasy setting, but like there's like a nebula in the back. It's real weird. I'm kidding, of course.
That was a good one. You know, it's really funny that you say that too. I actually have Witchfire right here in my desk. I bought it not too long ago as well.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
But what I actually brought is probably one of my favorite comic covers.
I love it. I love that cover.
For if you don't know, this is Crimson Empire. This is the cover for issue 1, and this is the 30-year anniversary edition that I got, ironically, from Dave Dorman. He signed it, who is the cover artist for it.
You want to show that signature one more time? That way we can all mimic it in our books. I'm kidding.
It's like the last time the Dave Warton one I showed off.
Yeah, I really like this because, well, it's just like an intimidating, badass cover, with the Crimson Guard in an attack, very basic but like intimidating attack stance. And there's you kind of can't see it in this one. It's better in the actual comic if any of you have it. Wherever you can actually see like there's rows of Crimson Guards behind it. The Imperial logo in the back is on fire, and I even like how there's like a lighting effect where like there's like that looks like you can see red eyes coming out of the guardsman's
creepy
helmet visor.
That's pretty cool.
That's another comic series I would recommend as a starting point.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Matt's actually showing us something down there. Oh, wow.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So that's what the full cover looks like.
Nice.
And we also got a Dark Empire cover on there too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, hello. These are all signed by Dave Dorman.
Sweet.
Yeah, really awesome.
You hold it one more time.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Very nice.
Right.
Beauty. Purdy.
Eating Hershey's.
Dark Empire is such a cool looking cover too.
That is.
But yeah, I actually to judge that cover, Dylan, I think I did buy that, like the original, but I don't remember if I did or not. I have some trades. Okay, I haven't read them for the Expanded Universe, but I do have some, and I believe I picked up the Crimson Empire 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a 3 as well. That was much later though, and it's terrible.
Okay.
It's not.
It's pretty awful. It swaps Luke and Leia's characters. Is some of the worst characters of the two of them.
Adam said, Would you guys recommend Legacy of the Force with Cade Skywalker?
Yes.
Legacy Cade Skywalker wasn't in Legacy of the Force. He was in the Legacy comic series.
I would recommend both the Legacy comic series and Legacy of the Force.
Yeah.
They're both solid choices, whichever one you pick.
I
wouldn't.
It's really weird, interesting with like the post New Jedi Order stuff. It's like Legacy of the Force is a great story, right? But I'm almost like, should you start reading it if you haven't read New Jedi Order? I don't know, Matt. What's your take on that?
To me, to be honest, before I really got doing videos on YouTube about Star Wars, I thought you had to read Bantam first before going into Del Rey, before going into, and I am so wrong because they all are self-contained stories. Even the Legacy comic book would be self-contained. You don't really need to know that much, and it just takes off from there. Yes, they mentioned the Vong invasion, but the thing is, though, it could have been any alien invasion. You would have accepted it and moved on, because that doesn't become very relative to the story as it goes overall, you know.
I will say that there's certain character deaths that are referenced.
It's true, but I don't think you'd be lost reading the comic book series.
I don't know if you would know what's happening, but I don't know if you would have the full emotional weight of what's happening.
Yeah, I think you would. I think you would. You get enough of it. Granted, like reading New Jedi Order before Legacy of the Force adds to it, but I think as a whole, it's a standalone series. I don't think I can say the same thing about Fate of the Jedi, though.
Well, Jake Ayers says, even though I still call Cad the crackhead from when my friend described the series to me. So he's a crackhead?
He's addicted to death sticks for a while.
Oh, nice.
For about half of it, yeah.
Drugs and Star Wars. Bryce, he'd suggest the Tales of the Jedi when it's focused Exar Kun and Ulick Quell drama.
Ulick Quell drama, yeah. Tales of the Jedi is when does like the Nomi Sunrider Ulick Droma part actually start? What issue is?
Technically, it started with that, and then they went after the Sith War. They went back to Golden Age of the Sith and Fall of the Sith Empire, or prequels.
Yeah, but in like when you get like the Omnibuy, for example, it's like in chronological order.
It starts in volume halfway through volume 1 of the omnibus. It was called, when they collected it in a trade paperback, it was called Knights of the Old Republic, but it's just called Tales of the Jedi. Specifically, it's the Tale of Nomi Sunrider and the Tale of Ulick Dromo. And volume 2 is Dark Lords of the Sith War, and Redemption.
So would you buy this cover if you saw it?
Yes.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is I'm sure that a lot of like the kids that are all about the new canon will see that and they'll say, "Oh, look, one of the
Praetorian, I think they're called."
Praetorian, there you go. Like, oh, cool, a Praetorian Guard comic. And then they'll be introduced to the expanded universe.
Except their force spikes don't disappear on them.
Yeah.
Unlike the Praetorian Guards, who don't have eye slits.